Thank you, everyone. Please take your seats. Good morning. My name is John Flower, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies today. And first this morning, I invite to the stage Ms. Yvonne Weldon, Chair of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Lands Council.
Good morning. Dignitaries, the family members of those that lost their lives in the fires, ladies, gentlemen, sisters and brothers. As was said, my name is Yvonne Weldon. I am a Rotary woman from Cowra here in New South Wales. I am the elected chairperson of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, who are the cultural authority under the Aboriginal Land Rights Act for the land we're meeting on. I would like to pay my respects to all elders past and present, and to all First Nations and non-First Nations people here today. Welcome to country is an age-old tradition. It is more than just words, it is a spiritual process. By honouring their ancestors' footsteps, we are all walking in, continuing the practice of many generations before us to the many generations to come. The boundaries of the traditional owners are known and are lived through my people's relationships with this country. The Eora Nation's country covers the Hawkesbury River in the north, the Nepean in the west, and the Georges River in the south. On behalf of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, the elders and the members, I welcome everyone to the lands of the Wongal, the Burramadigal and the Wallimadigal. I acknowledge their people whose spirits and ancestors will always remain with this land, our Mother Earth. These three clans intersected here, which was originally a great wetlands. Across this continent, there are hundreds of nations, tribes and clans that have existed here for over 60,000 years. The First Nations of this country are the oldest living culture of the world. As we all gather, let us all remember the many that lost their lives, their families, their friends and our communities. The towns and the communities that were struck with devastation and the suffering that is still being felt. My people have always listened and learnt from each other, our environment, the animals, the elements, and also our ancestors. We don't live in isolation of culture, spirit, land and water because we are one. We need to reflect upon what has taken place to change what should never happen again. The Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council extends our deepest sympathies to the families who lost their loved ones and to everyone that were impacted through responding, caring and helping. Our society, our state and our country are grateful for what you stood for and for the positive changes you made for all of us. To give us all strength, let us all draw upon my people's spirits as we continue on our journey. May my people's spirits walk with you and guide you as we strive forward for us all. Again, on behalf of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, welcome to Wongal, Burramadigal and Wallimadigal lands. This always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne, for the welcome to country. On behalf of our hosts today, the Honourable Gladys Berejiklian, Premier of New South Wales, and the New South Wales Rural Fire Service Commissioner, Shane Fitzsimmons, I'd like to acknowledge today the presence of His Excellency, General the Honourable David Hurley, Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Her Excellency, Mrs. Linda Hurley. Her Excellency, Margaret Beasley, Governor of New South Wales, and Mr. Dennis Wilson, the Honourable Scott Morrison, Prime Minister of Australia, and Mrs. Jenny Morrison, the Honourable Tom Bathurst, Chief Justice of New South Wales, and Mrs. Robin Bathurst, New South Wales State Ministers, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, state and federal parliamentarians, senior officers from the Australian Defence Force, commissioners, CEOs, deputies and senior officers of the emergency service agencies, mayors and councillors from local government areas across New South Wales, emergency service personnel, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and most importantly, the families of those affected who are here today. For more than 6 months in 2019 and 2020, New South Wales was in the grip of the worst natural disaster in living memory. The unprecedented bushfires, which have devastated more than 5 million hectares of our state, have destroyed thousands of homes and buildings. They have caused the deaths of thousands of livestock and untold numbers of native animals. Most tragically, they have taken the lives of 25 people, 6 of whom were firefighters who died in service and who are represented by the boots you see here on stage. The men who have just placed those boots so carefully are the fellow volunteers, operational staff and colleagues of those brave firefighters and representatives of Coulson Aviation. I'd like to acknowledge Superintendent Simon Davis, District Manager, Cumberland Rural Fire District, Captain Darren Nation, Horsley Park Rural Fire Brigade, and Superintendent Patrick Westwood, District Manager, Southern Border Team. And I'd also like to acknowledge from Coulson Aviation, Hayden Biggs, John Gallagher, and Travis Adams. The two statues on the stage here depict a wildland or bush firefighter. Originally designed in Boise, Idaho, the statues were given to the Horsley Park Rural Fire Brigade and Malvern Culcaine North Rural Fire Brigade by the Rural Fire Service Association, and they honour firefighters who lose their life in service. We are here today to honour the memory of those whose lives were lost, the members of the community and of the firefighting family. We are also here to show our respect for and thanks to the brave men and women across New South Wales, across Australia, and around the world whose courage, selflessness, and sheer determination saved so many lives. The flags on the stage behind me represent the countries which stood shoulder to shoulder with us fighting the fires. Along with the Australian, New South Wales, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags, you'll see the flags of our friends, Canada, New Zealand, and the United States of America. Also on stage are the flags of the heroic New South Wales agencies which played an integral part in our response to this crisis. The Rural Fire Service, Fire and Rescue, National Parks and Wildlife Service, the Forestry Corporation, the Police Force, the New South Wales Ambulance, and the State Emergency Service. And I'd also like to acknowledge the invaluable contribution of Marine Rescue New South Wales, Surf Lifesaving New South Wales, St John Ambulance New South Wales, and the New South Wales Volunteer Rescue Association and the Australian Defence Force. We also acknowledge the support of the Fire and Emergency Service agencies, as well as those organisations from across all states and territories who stood side by side with us in our time of need. Throughout the ordeal of the bushfires, Commissioner Shane Fitzsimmons has been a steady hand, guiding and inspiring the many men and women from those organisations I've just mentioned. He was also a comforting and reassuring voice to the community and showed true compassion, earning himself a very special place in our hearts and our history. I'd now like to welcome Commissioner Fitzsimmons to the stage.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, and I would like to recognise their resilience and their commitment to the land, both locally and right across New South Wales and Australia. It is a great land beset with great tragedy recently. Devastation that can be seen across the landscape and on the faces of people who live, work and holiday in this land across New South Wales. The bushfire season of 1920 will be remembered as one of the most challenging in our history, not just because of the conditions we face and the impact on community in New South Wales, but because of the number of fires and their impact on towns, villages, suburbs and livelihoods, the impact on our natural environment, the ecosystems, the plants and the animals, and of course, as we pay tribute today, the enormous loss of life. 25 lives have been taken by this bushfire season. Each one of those is a story of grief, of profound loss and great sadness, of lives cut short and of families being changed forever. Nans and pops, mums and dads, sisters, brothers, sons and daughters, loved ones, colleagues and mates, all much loved and valued critical members of our local communities. Each one of them will serve as a reminder of the terrible events of this bushfire season. To the families and loved ones of those that have been lost and who are here today, we know your hearts have been broken over recent months, and we are truly blessed that you've made the effort to be here today, particularly our colleagues from right across over the other side in the United States of America. We also know that healing them will take a lifetime, a long time. Please accept my, and indeed all those of the extraordinary Fire and Emergency Services team that have so tirelessly and desperately tried to save everyone and as much as possible this awful season. Please accept our sincere condolences, thoughts and prayers during this most difficult of times. Sadly, those of us in the firefighting and emergency services family know only too well the pain and tragedy of loss, as we too have experienced such loss from our family this season. On Thursday, the 19th of December, we lost firefighter Andrew O'Dwyer and Deputy Captain Jeff Keaton, two mates whose lives were tragically cut short while on duty at the Greenwaddle Creek fire near Buxton, southwest of Sydney. Their fire truck from the Horsley Park Brigade was struck by a falling tree whilst driving down the road as part of a convoy. Andrew, a much-loved member of the brigade, leaving behind his wonderful family and beautiful wife and daughter, Melissa and Charlotte. And Jeff, also a much-loved member, leaving behind his wonderful family and beautiful fiancée and son, Jess and Harvey. Two men simply committed to their families, their brigade, and their local community, the desire for simply helping others. And on Monday, the 30th of December, we lost firefighter Sam McPaul. Sam, who was with the Morven Rural Fire Brigade, was working on the coal can fire truck at the Green Valley Fire Ground near Gingellic, just to the east of Albury, when tragically his life was cut way too short. In a freak accident, the 10-tonne fire truck that Sam was working on was flipped over and onto its roof when it was hit by an extraordinary wind event described as extreme cyclonic-type winds by those in attendance at the time. This was created by the pyroconvective column or fire-generated thunderstorm that developed as a result of the fire he and his crew were working on. Sam too was a much-loved member of his local brigades and who was always there for the community and someone who simply wanted to serve his community in any way that he could. Sam, a father-to-be, also leaves behind his wonderful family and beautiful wife of 18 months, Megan, who is expecting their first baby in May of this year. We sincerely trust that the families of Andrew, Jeff and Sam know how deeply that their loved ones, to us all, not just in the firefighting family, but right across New South Wales and Australia, they died as heroes. Selfless individuals paying the ultimate price while simply serving and protecting others in their local community and communities much further afield. Our international friends and firefighting partners from Coulson Aviation who have themselves also seen tragedy with the loss of the C-130 Hercules large air tanker, Bomber 134, that crashed near Cooma on the 23rd of January. Names of the crew which will now be remembered in our country forever for their service and their sacrifice. Captain Ian Macbeth, who leaves behind his lovely family and wife Bodie, children Abigail, Calvin and Ella. First Officer Paul Hudson leaves behind his lovely family and beautiful wife Noreen. And Flight Engineer Rick De Morgan Jr., who leaves behind his lovely family, including children Lucas and Morgan. 3 US firefighting crew who came to the defence of our communities, working from the skies, not just to protect